Hey everybody, James Mason here. Just wanted to say thank you for purchasing a ticket to this workshop on how to book LinkedIn sales calls. I'm really excited about this session and we're going to be jumping straight in today. This one's going to be very condensed, so feel free to take notes throughout. Of course, there will be a recording sent to you after the call. Okay, so first and foremost, what we're going to be covering here today is improving your profile to ensure that it shows the authority and trust for someone to want to actually speak with you, how to organize the prospects that we're going to share with you how to find, identifying the decision makers within a specific company or even the people that you would want to actually write to, how to use signals on LinkedIn, including hiring, which is the most powerful to date, posted, but also even maybe new group members, how we can utilize this information. That way you can be alerted straight away and get to people the moment they've kind of put it out there publicly that they might be interested in needing some help. And then lastly, we'll be sharing with you the 3 messages that book us calls right now. Okay, so very few people would reveal the actual messaging that they're using. We will, and we'll share with you, more or less what it is, what it looks like, and of course, you can copy and paste it if you choose. So what we'll cover first is the profile. That way we can make sure that it's in place and all the core things are there. Something to keep in mind throughout this process is your profile is something that you should absolutely adjust depending on who you're looking to bring in. So if you choose to go after people that are new to a group, and we'll share with you why that might be a good option, or perhaps maybe even they're hiring a specific role, you may want to tailor your profile to speak to those people that you're bringing in. Anyway, let's jump straight in to the profile optimization. And if you have a question, please visit jamesmason.co and use our contact form to ask. Many of you have asked questions already. Our team has been sending emails out to have you pre-ask questions, just so that way we have them ahead of time. But of course, whilst during this session, if you have one, feel free to ask it there. If our team feels whilst we're live that it's not valid for everybody, the entire group, of course, we will respond to every question individually and perhaps even a video from me. Fantastic. Anyway, guys, excited. Great to see you guys joining. Let's jump straight into the profile. So with this, of course, this isn't our full session on profile optimization, but this is just something to really, really keep in mind when we're looking to book sales calls. There's 2 questions that people ask when a stranger messages them on LinkedIn. Who are you and how can you help me? And typically, that's the only thing they care about. Okay, so one thing that we do with our profile is we're always constantly changing it. But ultimately, we want to communicate those major things. So no matter what the offer is, and I say this all the time, is if you're making content on LinkedIn and you're always talking about slightly different subjects, make sure that your profile speaks to all the things that you might be sharing, speaking on, etc., etc. So the cover, let's chat about that really quickly. Leads and clients, right? So leads and clients is the main thing we discuss, whether it be finding new leads, which we're discussing a bit today, or converting them into clients and booking calls. Of course, we're discussing that today as well. That is the overall of everything we speak about as a company. Whether it be me personally or the other team members, that is what we speak about. Okay, the second line, helping you turn LinkedIn into profit. Now, this line has been our single most profitable change on LinkedIn. And the reason why is it creates a lot of curiosity. Now, it tells you as a statement what we do, but it doesn't tell you how. And the only way you can learn how is by visiting the website, right? So this is just one of those things where it's like, okay, well, I'm looking, LinkedIn isn't making me a profit today. I would like that. How can James and his team help? So whether it be a course, a workshop, our services, etc., that kind of fills in the gaps and creates some curiosity for people to obviously visit the site. Now, down in this section, 2 super important sections here. Firstly, your name. Most people only type in their name, as in just regular text. Something you can do is add in an emoji. I'd highly recommend doing this because this allows you to just stand out from the crowd. Now, if I just check my inbox here, because this session is based on booking calls, you're going to see the power and the difference of this. This is my live inboxes of people that have messaged me in recently. So if I just scroll through here, you can see that almost all of the profiles are just their name. And then you see Tim. So Tim stands out dramatically in the inbox because he has an emoji that stands out, but also he has a colored background. So whilst you prefer your profile to look very professional, as you can see, 80% of people have the same type of profile image on LinkedIn. So again, you can follow the crowd if you choose, but I'd highly recommend adding a color, changing it up, doing something a little bit different, especially if your goal is to book a sales call. Now, whilst LinkedIn has one inbox, so we're not talking about cold email here, but if we were, we have spam and promotions, et cetera, to worry about. LinkedIn has one inbox. So when you send a message, it's guaranteed to be delivered. Okay, so it's absolutely going to arrive. Now, you cannot book a sales call unless they open the message, right? So keep that in mind. Now, with that as well, you can also add a custom pronoun to your profile. I'd highly recommend also doing this. This allows you to kind of add, and this is what we recommend, but you can do what you ultimately like, is we add our typical boring job title here. Now, whilst we don't want your profile to be like a resume, we want it to be a sales page for who you can help. Ultimately, it still makes sense to communicate in the most basic set of words what you do, right? So LinkedIn Growth Expert for myself covers exactly what we do. We help you grow and get more business from LinkedIn. Very simple, right? But we allow that to be said within a pronoun. Just quick tip on that. If you leave comments on other people's posts, if you make your own content or even message people in the inbox, that pronoun goes with it. So it's going to be seen everywhere. It also allows you to not have to introduce yourself to the same level, which will save tons of characters, which we'll cover later when we get to showcasing our messaging that we use. It's very, very short and sharp and to the point. So next section is just communicating a little bit more on authority and building trust. Now, the tagline is the most important part. Okay, so again, we reiterate turning LinkedIn into profit. And we've coached 18,000 business owners, soon to be 20,000. I'm excited to update that here probably by this time next month. But we are training many, many business owners all from all around the world on how to turn LinkedIn into profit. And this is where we see most success. So, of course, we tell people that you're not alone. These workshops, there's other people. Of course, there's a community, right? These sorts of things allow people to feel trusted. And then, of course, as well, this is very common on LinkedIn at the moment, a bit of a unique trend where people are kind of putting another line to kind of tell people their biggest deal created either for themselves or for their clients. And of course, we have done this as well. So the largest deal we've created to date is $500,000, and we did it within 7 days. And I'll be sharing with you in great detail what we've done there. Now, and of course, the goal here is to establish yourself as an expert, as the authority in your space, and of course create some curiosity for them to learn a little bit more or want to learn more about how you can help. Now, the rest of this we won't cover today for the profile. The most important part when it comes to booking calls is this section. If you wish to see our profile optimization workshop, it is free and you can go through the full hour of that. But for this session, obviously it's based on calls, and I just want to kind of give you guys the most important part and the core basics at this time. Okay, so let's move on. So now that we've, kind of optimized the profile, at least the initial heading and the kind of the heading, the cover and the tagline and got your name sorted, we now want to look to move on to where we find prospects. I want this session to be mainly on the signals, what we're looking at when we're reviewing LinkedIn. That way you guys get the most value out of this session. And I can see we have plenty of questions coming in. So thank you for that. Again, if you want to ask a question, visit jamesmason.co, the contact form, and then I'll go ahead and ask you a question there. Okay, so when it comes to finding decision makers, using signals, that before we dive into all of that world, we want to consider how we organize these people. Now, I will cover very briefly, we do a lot of stuff, and a lot of this session will be showcasing LinkedIn specific. But of course, if you're using other tools and other databases, keep in mind how you organize that, whether it be on a spreadsheet or whether it be within LinkedIn. So when it comes to LinkedIn, we highly recommend using Sales Navigator. Of course, you will get a free link as part of this workshop, but that's entirely up to you whether you utilize that for saving and organizing people. There are some pros and cons. Okay, so when it comes to this kind of process, what I would highly recommend that you do just right now is watch this section, see the kind of signals that I mentioned and showcased to you, and then decide in reverse. So perhaps you look to research and do your R&D before you decide what route and what prospects to save. It's best that you test all of these. That way you can see what's going to work best for your business and your prospects. Ultimately, you could try them all. Okay, so let's jump into Sales Navigator. So I'm just going to stop sharing my screen here. I know you guys couldn't see it. And then now we will share Sales Navigator. So with Sales Navigator, the prospecting side of this, there are two things to consider. Okay, so you have people searches and you have company searches. And this is up to you whether you work with companies or whether you work with individuals, or whether you choose to target specific companies or specific people within a company. Okay, now no matter which route you take, I'd highly recommend you only focus on the decision makers at that company and the people that have been in the position the longest. Now, there's two reasons for that. LinkedIn only let you add 400 people per month. Okay, and so often we see companies adding people that have been in a company for less than a year or 1 to 2 years, despite being in a really good role. Now, what we've found, and just from the brands we've worked with, over 400 of them at this point, is that when we add the people that have been there the longest, ironically, they know the most people. And they're more likely to go ahead and say, hey, this actually isn't for me. Please message Mark about this. Here's his email. Right. And like literally, they just give you over the information just in case you got the wrong prospect, or ultimately they don't make the decisions for that department or whoever the meeting might be held with first. But they're normally just more well connected. They feel more confident in who's the right person to be sharing this information with. Okay. So within Sales Navigator, you have very few signals that we can really look at. Okay. So the first one is posted. Now, if you're going to be using LinkedIn, I'd highly recommend only going after people that post, and especially for outreach. And there's two main reasons. Firstly, LinkedIn has had two bubbles in its time. It's well over 20 plus years old now. But the bubble of, let's say, 20 years ago, where it was a job forum, is no longer the same platform today. Granted, it's called the same platform. It's very much a social media platform of today. And it's important that we eliminate the people that don't use the platform as often as you would think. Now, lastly, is the posted element of this means they're an extroverted person. They utilize this platform to share, and they're far more willing to have a conversation. We've tested this in many different industries, many different job titles, and every single time it pans out the same. Okay, so really, really simple, kind of based this on a human level, but this allows you to just kind of get a bit more of an understanding. So for instance, I'm going to just plug in some stuff here. So if I open job title, let's say I want to focus on owners. Let's say I want to focus on United States, just for the time being. And I want to focus on people that have posted. So let's see the full scope of what LinkedIn brings up for just owners and just United States. So it says there's 6 million. But here's the scary part with LinkedIn. That's every person that's ever had a profile that's public. But if you see here, just slightly highlighted, there's only 170,000 of them that have posted in the last 30 days. So imagine if you wasted all those efforts on people that don't check the platform anymore. Again, in order to book a sales call, they have to open the message. If they're not utilizing the platform anymore, you're just wasting time and efforts. And we see this all too often. Now, even further, one signal, which seems to be quite popular, which I personally don't really like, is changing jobs. So unless your service is hyper-specific to the reason as to someone has changed jobs, this is something to maybe look at and save, but maybe not message them too soon. So if I click on this option, you can see here that there's roughly 10,000 business owners on LinkedIn in the United States that have posted in the last 30 days, as well as changed jobs in the last 30 days. Okay. Now, at this point, What I'm looking at here is trying to understand what, what could I say with them changing jobs? It could be a new project. This is something to look at, right? So if this is everybody, okay, well, I don't want to just find someone that's just started a brand new startup, unless that's who you're looking for specifically. So up here, what I would do is I would add company headcount. So by ensuring that they're not starting a company that's, self-employed, you can see 2,500 of those people are exactly that. 25% of this audience is self-employed, starting a brand new project on their own. So if you help startups, here's a great way of finding them. But if you don't, then you want to eliminate those people. And ideally, I would recommend, bigger the company, bigger the service, typically bigger the deal. Okay, so these are the things that we're looking at when we're diving into SalesNav, and based on kind of signals that we can see. Now, to jump into LinkedIn, there are two sides to Sales Navigator, which I will cover, and groups are a huge part of the platform. Okay, so if I wanted to find people that had, that were business owners in the US that have posted, right, but also maybe I want to use a group. That way I know that they're interested in the subject already. Now, this is one of the kind of the more lower barriers to entry when it comes to LinkedIn signals. But if you get to the person at the right time, this is fantastic. This works great for like even industry-based groups. So for instance, if it was a marketing professionals group, which there's a massive one on LinkedIn, even though it might seem like a marketing industry group, which it is for other marketers to join, very often you get company owners joining that to maybe find a specialist. So an SEO group would be an example. They might be looking for an SEO specialist. And if you join these groups, you'll see every week multiple posts get posted by companies looking for talent to help them complete that service or that, kind of interest or that subject to be, kind of they're looking for guidance, advice, and ultimately a solution. So what I would do here if I was just looking, and again, this is live, so we don't know if this is actually going to appear, but I'm in a group that's called Social Selling on LinkedIn. All right. So what a great group for me to be in, because it's anybody within here is exactly who I'm looking to help. What this also allows me to do is not have to convince them on the idea that LinkedIn could be for them. They've already told me that it is. Something about this group has got their interest in the past, and this allows me to understand them better. Okay, so for instance, if I was writing to these prospects, I can then write to them and say, we're in the same group, so they're far more likely to accept my connection request, far more likely to open a message, because you can see here that we share groups, we share mutual connections. All of these indicators are massive help to having someone sort of say yes and kind of being more open to booking a call, or whether that be, learning more or whatever you break it down. Okay, so these sorts of groups are fantastic. The private ones are the real secret. Okay, so despite you're seeing 44 prospects here from the 10,000 people that we found, keep in mind that, we only are allowed 400 people per month. So it wouldn't take too many groups to really add to where we start building up to 400. And of course, this is only the US. So if you have more countries that you can service, you can simply add them and you would find more. Fantastic. So that's just kind of one of those signals that we look for. Really, at its core, is we're pre-identifying groups where they've already shown interest. And just to do that, what I'll share with you here really briefly is, if I just stop sharing my screen, I'll reshare here, and then I'll be able to share with you. So for instance here, what I can do is type in, let's say LinkedIn in my case, but of course you would use your own keywords for your own business. Perhaps if you're running any other form of advertising, utilize those keywords and then filter it by groups. Something to understand, especially at the beginning, is that you have to be accepted to the group in order to search it through SalesNav. And the private ones are the best. Private groups have to be approved by a person, and these can be a huge goldmine to opportunities. So yeah, this is just, as I said, one of the methods. Now, moving on, something I will share with you is an absolute secret on LinkedIn. And when we use this, or quite frankly, this is the single most powerful route for most companies today, especially for booking calls, but actually in actually generating business and revenue really quickly. And the reason for that is we actually look for people that are hiring. Now, with keywords, right? So if I do this, and I'm just going to type in the UK, in fact, we'll do the United States, just to ideally get a few more results. But for instance, let me just do marketing for this example live. We should find a lot more. Fantastic. So this is what I want to share with you, is actually targeting companies that are hiring. I'm going to repeat that again because it's going to sound incredibly obvious to a lot of you. And this is one of the biggest aha moments we have when targeting for people. Instead of targeting people that we think may want to do business with us, we actually go out to companies that have already told the platform that they need some help. Now, marketing seems quite generic, so we wouldn't use this actual keyword. But what I can tell you is all of these brands, in which there's 84,000 of them, and I'm actually going to even do this even in the last 24 hours, right? So here's a great example. So here's 5,000 companies in the last 24 hours that have told LinkedIn in the US that they need some help with marketing. Okay, so why would we do this? Why would we then write to them? And you're probably thinking, well, our service isn't a full-time employee. It isn't a contractor. We're kind of something in the middle. None of that actually matters, if I'm honest with you. And from what we've seen with many, many clients is that these companies are looking for a solution. And whilst they they might have considered agencies, they might have considered, independent contractors, they might have considered hiring someone in-house. Most of the time, they're reviewing their options. And if you're not in the hat of options, you don't have the chance of winning this business. Now, what I can share with you is some of these job posts get hired within hours. People are making decisions at rates that I cannot begin to tell you. So one of the routes that we can do here, and again, you can explore different keywords for your industry, but if you're in a service-based business and you can find a job role where, or a keyword where you can find prospects that need this experience, this is a gold mine. We just did this for a company that offers 3D prototyping and 3D rendering. As you can imagine, very, very niche. We found an immense amount of jobs in the last month. I believe it was around 800 companies were looking for that worldwide, and they just found their gold mine, their pot, and this is all they kind of needed to focus on. Now, what I'll share with you is the latest companies and which you can set alerts for. These are the companies to focus on. Okay, so the ones that just posted yesterday, today, an hour ago, all of these people are the ones to focus on, the latest. Now, how would we do that? Now, I can see here that this company is based in Kansas. And again, review the job posts, understand what they're looking for a bit more. Now, if you have someone or a salesperson and they have time and you have a rep that does outreach for you, of course, have them review the job. Now, you could apply, so there is a technique in doing that. But what I'd actually recommend doing is writing to the decision makers. Oftentimes, and you can scroll down here on the job posts, so it looks like they don't have somebody assigned. So let me try one more here just to see if I can show you an example. Maybe one more. Let's just see. No. So, oh, here we go. Perfect. So you can see that with this job post that they've actually assigned somebody to run and manage the job post. And if I wanted to message them, I could. So if you wanted to throw your kind of service or your landing page or anything like that into this person, they're very likely to share it. Now, here's the catch, and this is a fantastic example. You can get recruiters in here, but you can also get people that are just looking to solve the task. Okay, so for instance, that somebody may be assigned to this job post to eliminate all the candidates that do not qualify and only share the ones that do. If your service is kind of in the middle, much like our own would be if you're looking for LinkedIn marketing, then you kind of want to get past that person. And this is how we would do that. So by taking the company, right? So we copy the company name and we keep this job post open. So I will stop sharing my screen here really quickly, reopen Sales Navigator. This is going to allow us to now plug in that company to use them as a signal. So I will just quickly exit this off what I just did there was refresh Sales Nav. And now what I'm going to do is paste that company that's hiring already. And just keep in mind to remember the logo color. It's in the actual job post. That way you don't get the wrong company. But you can see here that this company, they obviously offer marketing services, but they have 22 employees. And now I may only want to write to, well, in this case, it's up to you. When there's something like 20 people, I wouldn't write to everybody. I'd write to the people that post, which it appears that only one person has. So junior partner, that is not someone we want to write to. So let's see if we can find the founder or the owner or something like this, right? So again, I'm not going to dive into this too much, but let's see if we can find somebody here. So let's see if I can find the owner. Not always are they public, and obviously this is a live example, so we'll skip that step. But the idea will be to type in the job roles of decision makers at a company that we feel we can help, right? So what this does is when I write to them, and now there's two options here as well, and I'll just jump back to sharing just me here, is there's two options that happen when it comes to kind of utilizing that tactic, using a hiring signal as one. One, you could mention that you've seen the job post and you want to share with them more details about how you could help. The latter, which is what we prefer, is where we like it to seem like a happy coincidence. Now, if you choose to do the happy coincidence model, you need to keep a really stern face. Because when you do hop on that sales call and they let you know that they couldn't believe that we sent a message and the timing just seems so perfect, you have to sit there and go, yeah, well, that's surprising, isn't it? But we know why they feel that way. And that happens all the time with us, is that, hey, we were just reviewing, our team was just getting together, and just something to share that maybe I didn't mention just earlier. When it comes to job posts on LinkedIn, there's two reasons we go after them at such an aggressive pace. The first reason is their team internally has already had all the discussions to identify that they have this problem, right? So if it's a marketing issue, they're now looking for a marketing solution. And the second option, because they've posted a job title, and you can use this to your advantage depending on your service costs, is they also have a budget. Okay, so there is a salary option on LinkedIn that allows you to kind of determine what level of person they might be hiring, what level of experience, and most importantly, what salary they're setting aside to solve this problem. So if they're setting aside, $50K a year to solve a marketing issue and your service is less, well, that's your competitive advantage in that space, is you might be able to deliver everything within the time in which it takes them to get fully trained and comfortable to implement, whatever they might be doing as a marketing individual at the company, right? So all these things are how we get our foot in the door. We're now an option in the hats of people that are looking for a solution right this second. Okay, so let me jump into some questions as well. The team are pinging me here in the back end. So let me jump into some questions, and then I'll share with you the sort of three messages we use, and I can probably jump back to some questions. But is everyone enjoying this so far? Tons of notes taking? Fantastic. Excellent. Let's jump into some questions then. And just to cover, if you have a question and you want it answered, just go to jamesmason.co, enter it in the contact form, and we'll be sure to respond either live right now, or of course, directly to you if that question is a bit more personal or specific to your industry. Fantastic. So let's just jump in. How long does it realistically take to book your first sales call using this system? Well, it depends how quickly you can identify the prospects. Now, when it comes to using things like job posts, very, very quickly. We see people making hiring decisions within hours of job posts being made. So you can literally see calls being booked same day. So if that's a technique that you can implement and you can find job posts very, very quickly. If it's more along the lines of a traditional outreach method, perhaps you've identified prospects that, they're not showing a signal, a little bit longer. Typically, you should expect to book anywhere between 2 and 10 calls per month from one LinkedIn profile. And that's if you've got the right messaging and ideally the right prospects. And naturally, the more you test, the more you try, the more calls you will book. We have companies booking hundreds of calls, as well as people that are happy with 2 or 3 per month. So there's lots of options there when it comes to booking calls. Again, how far you qualify, how many questions you have on your book, kind of a calendar link. All of these things play a factor as well. So just make sure, don't worry about how many, but just make sure that if you're using signals, the bigger the signal, the quicker the response, right? Fantastic. What would you focus on first if you had 30 minutes a day for LinkedIn? I'd identify the latest jobs within that 30 minutes and write to those companies, write to the founders, the owners, the decision makers, the hiring manager, write to every single person with a decision at that company if I had 30 minutes. Because you're right, at least you're writing to people that have already identified the problem, have a budget, and naturally your message will resonate much better with them and kind of be an option amongst the rest of the people. Okay, fantastic. So do you need to post every day to get results on LinkedIn? Absolutely not. Nothing we've covered here today mentions posting. 1% of users post every day on LinkedIn. So if you want to post every day, you will be part of that 1%. But I don't. I post about once a week on LinkedIn because a lot of what we use it for is messaging. Most business is still done in the private sphere, so within the inbox and or in private calls, one-to-one sales calls, and that's what we use LinkedIn for. Okay, so do you recommend optimizing one clear offer or multiple services? Great point. So if you have one clear outstanding offer or a good starting offer for most people, again, just keep in mind who and what's the most likely route to starting a business relationship with you. So if you have a service that's easy to say yes to, these workshops are a great example of that. Most new clients of ours come to a workshop and then they lead into either buying a course, having us help directly, one-to-one consultations, private training, etc., etc. But we choose to offer multiple services because we can and we do. So depending on where you're at and what stage you feel most confident, it just depends on what route people want to get there. So in our case, the reason we offer multiple services is some people like to learn on their own. Some people like to learn with others. Some people like a community. Some people just want it all done for them. And when that's the case, you have to adapt to what your clients would like. Yeah. Best of luck with that one. Let me know if once you've kind of adjusted your profile, I'll be sure to check it out. Just go ahead and contact us on the contact form. Fantastic. There's so many questions coming in, guys. This is fantastic. So I'll jump into a bunch more and we can jump into the messages and carry on the process. So how many new connections should someone realistically send per day without risking restrictions? Great question. So restrictions on LinkedIn are vastly important. Whether you're doing this manual or whether you're automating this process, both are possible, by the way. 20 connections per day is the maximum. Now, I wouldn't recommend sending exactly 20 every single day for long periods of time. I would change it up. But if you identify a company or 3 or 4 companies a day or 5 or 10, you can pick and choose how many people you add from each company. Naturally, the more people you add per company, the more likely you are to get through. Keep that in mind. Make your own decisions there. It is a numbers game outreach, so I'd always recommend going after a few decision makers at each company each day, and you should get some good responses and calls booked. Fantastic. How do you follow up without sounding pushy or desperate? Great question. So we'll cover this. In fact, maybe we'll jump straight into it now. When it comes to our messaging, and we'll jump into the messaging now. I won't make you guys wait to the end like some of these other webinars. As I said, all of these workshops are massively condensed and all value. So hopefully you guys are enjoying it and taking notes throughout this session. Now, when it comes to messaging on LinkedIn, if we were speaking 24 months ago, this process and our services were much easier. You didn't have to look for signals. You didn't really have to worry about that. And, as LinkedIn grows, it's naturally going to mean 2 things. More people asked to do the same thing. There's more people than ever looking to book sales calls than there is today. And secondly, you have to, always think from the prospect end, why would they want to give up their time, energy, and potentially even money to somebody they've never heard of before? This happens often with larger companies as well, as we see that they dive in to research their prospects like they know them and forget the fact that they don't actually know who you are. So with this in mind, we have quite a creative route to booking calls, which is roughly produced 46% more calls for all of our clients using this methodology. Okay, I'm going to share with you the exact template so you can copy and paste it for your own business, but we're going to share with you 3 campaigns that we run right now, both on LinkedIn and cold email, to book calls. And here they are. So I'll go ahead and share with you the first message. So we've helped 18,000 professionals book sales calls from LinkedIn. Would you like to see how? Immensely simple, right? We're not looking to sell them anything. We're just looking to touch base to see if it's something they might want to explore. Now, here's the catch. When they respond positively, which the idea behind this messaging template is authority statement with a curiosity question. I'm going to repeat that again. A authority and trust building statement with a curiosity question. And the reason we take this framework is this is one of the easiest things to reply to, because we're not asking you to book a call. We're not asking you to look at our templates or our playbooks or our documents or any of this. We just want to know if you want to know more about how we book sales calls. Now, when they respond positively, here's the catch. The only way they get to learn more is by booking a call. Now, you're going to be like, well, that doesn't, no, this won't work. I can assure you it will work. It works incredibly well. Now, when you touch on how do we follow up without sounding pushy or desperate, well, guess what? We have a bunch of documentation and lead magnets that go along with this type of messaging. So in case they don't want to speak straight away, we follow up in a couple of days to say, hey, we haven't seen you booked a call, but we'd like to share with you X. We'd like to share with you Y. We'd like to invite you to this workshop. Perhaps it's not the right time for them. Maybe they don't have availability this week, et cetera, et cetera. This allows us to continuously follow up in a valuable way because they've already said yes. That makes sense? Fantastic. Let's jump to the next one. So again, we've built a repeatable system that books calls from LinkedIn. Would you like me to walk you through it? Now, keep in mind, right, if you were to receive this message and you just posted a job post on looking to do LinkedIn outreach, you're very likely to respond positively. Or if you're looking to get involved with LinkedIn marketing, you're very likely to respond positively, right? Because why wouldn't you? You've already put out there on the platform what we're messaging isn't in any way looking to sell you anything, which is what most people try and do. We're just looking to share with you a system that, again, making this incredibly easy to say yes to, ultimately respond positively. Now, something to keep in mind with both of these messaging and even the next one I'm going to share with you is this messaging, as I said, is meant to create trust, authority, and create curiosity, nothing more. The profile, if they choose to say, well, who's James? What do they do? That's going to cover all of that gap before the call. That way they should have seen how many people we've helped, how many our case studies on our site, if they've checked that out. All of these things now become the prospect's idea to learn more about who we are. We asked them a question, they responded positively, and now we've kind of opened the door to what might be possible through us. And that's the real trick with LinkedIn, to build trust, to get to know someone, and naturally book a call. Okay, and of course, our actual sales booking link has qualifying questions further. So if it's not a fit or they can't afford X or Y, this is going to eliminate them throughout the process, which they always should do. Don't just book calls with people that are willing to give you an email and nothing else. Be sure to ask questions on your contact form. Then lastly, this is our least performing one, but we still utilize it because what we find is this one creates conversations that lead to business rather than just booking calls. That is something I want to share with you because not all conversations need to be on the phone. They can indeed be within the LinkedIn chat. So in under 5 minutes, we can usually tell why LinkedIn isn't converting. Would it be useful to see what's missing? Now, this is a 5-minute video, which is actually made by myself, where we walk people through all the things that they're missing out on LinkedIn. It's not made one-to-one. If you choose to do that, this strategy is immensely powerful. But of course, it's a recording to let people know what's possible and what they're missing out on. How do you guys find those messages? I look forward to seeing you messages in the chat here in a second. And of course, if you have any questions about this messaging, feel free to contact us on jamesmason.co in the contact form. Now, keep in mind, I will be sending those out so you guys will have them, but the framework for them for your own industry is authority, trust, curiosity, question. Then when they respond positively, as in they want to learn more, the way to learn more is by booking a call. Okay. And then that way, what this allows you to do is if they don't want to book a call, maybe they're not a speaker, this opens your door for valuable follow-ups again and again and again. We have 10 valuable follow-ups where the follow-ups are just more and more value along the exact same premise. So we just keep showcasing what they're missing out on, how we can help them, etc., etc. Because we've already got permission to do so, right? They've said they were interested. So every week or every other week, we'll message them with a new reason or new little bit of extra value. Never would I look to ask, would you like to speak again, right? So we always just want that link to live there, but we just want them to convince themselves bit by bit as they see more and more from us. Okay, fantastic. Let's jump back to questions. I really enjoyed answering those. We have so many coming in, so I just want to make sure we can cover the majority of them. And yeah, naturally, if you have one, again, contact us through the contact form. Okay, so let me just jump back to where we was. Fantastic. Okay, so next question. At what point in the conversation do you transition toward a sales call? Great point. This is typically, we find that a sales call can also be a discovery call. So sometimes, especially with that last message template where we send a 5-minute video, there's so much in that 5 minutes that they wouldn't have known the majority of that stuff was possible, let alone available, that oftentimes they start asking multiple questions in a row. The moment you have multiple questions in a row, just suggest booking a call or suggest chatting on the phone or suggest scheduling a time to answer any and all questions that they may have. So whenever they show multiple sets of interest, we use that moment to transition. Equally, if you find that you're now in a conversation with in-depth context, most of the time it's much easier to show on screen. So for instance, if you're a software, which is where we use this technique, is we'll say, hey, our tool is best viewed on screen whilst being walked through on a demo. Would you like to book one? And then they can schedule that call. Yeah. So that's typically how we would reference that and utilizing that. Again, you can automate this process, is what we do for most companies. So of course, if that's something of interest to you, feel free to contact us on the contact form. But of course, if you have someone manually there, they can play this situation by ear. Any good salesperson will be able to determine that. But equally, if you're looking to automate, you can do this through automation as well. Fantastic. Next question. What kind of support is available after the workshop if someone wants help implementing? Great question. So we have a 12-hour course. We have consultations with me and other team members as well. We have implementation programs that we can operate. We can implement this entire system for you for a period of time, whether it be 3, 6, or 12 months. We can manage everything for you. So feel free to view the website. If you're looking to learn more yourself, the course is probably your best route. If you're looking to have something just kind of built for you and done by us, just feel free to contact us on the contact form, and we'll go ahead and share with you any and all information that you might need. Thanks for your question. On a scale of 1 to 10, how confident are you with LinkedIn outreach right now? A 10, when using signals. If you're not using signals, or you're not using interest-based signals, whether it be a group, whether it be hiring signals, whether it be posted, if you're eliminating all these small details, you'll find that it just simply doesn't work as well, truly. So the more you focus in on these signals, the more you hyper-specific, kind of hyper-target people, this is where you'll see results with outreach. The days of just kind of spray and pray doesn't really work. Oh, apologies, I just shared the wrong question. It was this one here. So just to cover. So it's a 10 with signals. Without signals, I truly wouldn't recommend it. It's just not worth it this time to invest time, energy, and effort to do outreach. If you're not using the signals that we kind of mentioned, it's just you're fighting a losing battle, truly. Excellent. Next question. What changes on LinkedIn in the last year? What's changed on LinkedIn in the last year that people aren't adapting to? Great question. It's exactly what I just mentioned. Signals. people are stuck in the way of still utilizing LinkedIn the way it was working a year ago, or even 2 years ago. For instance, 2 years ago, if you were posting on LinkedIn every day, you were one of like very few people doing that, quite literally. And nowadays, it's 1% of people are posting every day. But with much like Facebook did 10 to 15 years ago, if you're posting, it's now no longer really getting the reach it did. Okay, so without paying for that. So if you're willing to kind of go in the ads route and pay for boosting, much like Facebook, play that game. But once you start, you have to commit to it. Okay, so we see that time and time again. If you start boosting posts on LinkedIn and then you try and post one for free, it won't get seen by near anybody. The same thing Facebook did. It's just the way these platforms work. If you are to utilize content, I would do that within a group. But what's changed? Posts don't get as much reach. Messaging now no longer works unless you're using signals. And that's just kind of the way in which it works. As I said, if you can identify people that already have the problem, already looking for the solution and have the budget, for most businesses, especially in service-based, that is all you kind of need to do. Just so you know, that does work for coaches as well. I did see the attendee list before this, and a lot of coaches here. That also works for people looking for coaches. We've helped quite a few coaches recently actually train companies that are looking to improve on specific skills. That is something, if you kind of do that, that is something for you to look at as well. Should your profile talk more about you or your prospect's problem? Great question. It depends on what you sell. Truly, I would say, if you're selling yourself, whether it be time, coaching, expertise, accountancy, these sorts of things, I would then look to, share a lot about yourself as an individual. But if it's B2B and your company does one thing or a few things, I would then make it about the company. It's entirely up to you. Depends on what you sell. I like to do a mixture of both. I feel people don't typically buy from people that they do not know, unless we're talking from a retail perspective. Obviously, we don't care what the cashier looks like when we buy a T-shirt at a shop, but very different in the B2B world, right? You don't typically do business with people that you do not know who they are or what they're about, or check their case studies, et cetera, right? So these are the things you want to be looking at. Great. Next question. Thanks, guys, for all these questions as well. It really helps us provide value, but also allows you to get a bit more advice and kind of details on specifics. I also see our inbox, our emails in the top corner here. Feel free to keep asking questions. I can see there are some that are more direct. If you have one that's more direct, that kind of doesn't benefit the group, I'll just simply respond to those personally. Okay. The team kind of put them together for me. I'll go through after this session and answer those for you. Fantastic. Next question. How do you know if an industry has buying power before you start outreach? Great question. Back to the job posts, right? You know that if they've just posted a job and they're looking to hire someone for 6 figures, you know they have the buying power. Most companies are in a good position when they make a hiring decision. Just in general, right? They have the budget to set aside for a role. Now, if you can't find the specific keywords for your industry, arguably just targeting companies that are hiring right now still gets you to companies that have budgets. So if you work with tech companies and there isn't a role for let's say you offer AI agents, let's just say we have a few clients in that space at the moment, and you want to get to tech companies that have budgets, well, if they're hiring for 5 to 10 roles right now, they have budgets. Things are looking positive. They may be more likely to explore a new form of service, right? So again, if you're not doing that, you're just kind of guessing. And LinkedIn isn't the place to guess because they give you very limited options per month. Literally the difference between it working and not working. Okay, fantastic. So let me just see here. There's quite a few questions coming in. How do we buy power start outreach? Okay, we answered that one. Okay, great question. So what do you say when someone replies with not interested? Have a nice day, right? This is a numbers game. It depends on the type of response that they say. Oftentimes people say, hey, sounds great, but the wrong time. So in those people, we save them, we keep them organized, and we kind of reach back out next quarter or maybe later in that year. It just depends on your cycle of when people look to purchase your service. So for instance, we work with a lot of insurance companies at the moment. These typically have an annual renew policy. So there's a specific time in which they're considering new options. So we keep them in mind for that. So it just depends that cycle, but don't look to hard sell anyone. If I came and knocked on your house door right now to sell you a LinkedIn workshop, the odds that you would buy are very unlikely, right? But because it's been presented to you maybe once, maybe twice, 3, 4, 5 times, the time's right, you've realized, okay, this is an opportunity. And ultimately, it's become the prospect's idea to become a client. That's the real trick with outreach. When it be on LinkedIn or cold email, is we want to create something that allows you, the prospect, to feel like it's your idea to become the client. Despite we started the conversation, we did something to get your attention. This is just one of those methods. Great. Next question. Should you ever send voice notes on LinkedIn? Absolutely. Voice notes can be a great way of just kind of a follow-up, but also a really good way of just making it more personal. And so again, if your brand operates around a personal brand, which most of LinkedIn is done behind a profile, definitely consider it. We do also have clients that have people that send voice notes that aren't them through their profile. You can also automate them as well. So there are many options around voice notes, but I would utilize them, but just keep in mind that whilst they create curiosity, sometimes saying too much can remove the need for a call. And when they're on a call, you have the chance to sell. Most people don't buy from a voice note, right? So just keep that in mind. Is commenting on other people's posts still worth it? Absolutely. I highly recommend that as a strategy, especially if you have influencers in your space or even like publications in your space where there's just, a media outlet where you can consistently find people that are interested in your subject. Alternatively, private groups that we mentioned here as well. Whilst we want to get in front of new members all the time, and the latest people to join, because we know they might be interested in solving that problem. For instance, the social selling group on LinkedIn. We comment on every single post that's within there because every person that sees that post might as well see us and what we do. Yeah, it couldn't be more related. If they're viewing that post in that group, why not be introduced to us? So yes. Where should automation stop so you don't lose authenticity? Fantastic question. In a world of AI, especially where everyone's trying to automate things, I'd highly recommend stopping automation the moment you have a positive reply. So the moment an actual person or a prospect says, yes, I'm open to a call, stop all automation, have the call, then use automation to follow up, keep in contact, see how things are going. But the moment someone's interested, we pause all of our stuff internally, and it allows us to have that call with that individual, see where they're at, understand that, and then use AI to guide that relationship further. Fantastic. How long should someone stick with one strategy before changing it? We typically recommend 60 to 90 days for one strategy. So if you're targeting companies that are hiring for LinkedIn marketing, we'd recommend doing that for 60 to 90 days and targeting the people that have the latest jobs. That is, and because you'll find that now those can happen really, really quickly, and you'll know whether it's working or not very fast. But even with like group members, sometimes it takes some time for people to kind of check LinkedIn messages. There's something to really keep in mind. Very few people these days use LinkedIn daily and even weekly. So oftentimes it's best to judge even one prospect over a month because they might check LinkedIn once every 2 weeks. Yeah. And that's something that understand your own industry. If it's very extroverted and very popular, fantastic. If it isn't, for instance, we just work with a company that does exhibition stands. They build the actual exhibition stands around the world. Those people aren't posting on LinkedIn. Like they utilize it when they're at an event to post that they're at the event. Otherwise, they're not on it. And that's just what we saw as well. And of course, we built a strategy to solve that as well. Excellent. So you've helped over 18,000 professionals. What patterns do you see amongst people who get the results fastest? Well, they take action, right? So all of this in this session is information. You can take this information and do nothing with it, or you could implement it rapidly. Whether you need our help to get it done this week or this month, or whether you look to take it on board and learn more through our course, all of these things is you take action and you look to implement it into your actual business and start testing rapidly. That is the people that get the results the quickest. They take this information, utilize it as best they can. Excellent. Next question. So when you're working with thousands of clients, what parts of LinkedIn actually matter most. The profile, what your profile says when it comes to trust and authority, and also, I would say, your first impression more than anything. So that's also your profile, but more importantly, what you say the very first time. If you look to sell someone the very first time, typically it goes positive or negative. And I don't like to burn relationships that could possibly happen. So really keep that in mind. How quickly you message them, how often you message them is all part of your first impression before they've actually met you on a call. And I'd really take your time to think about that. Even if you need the business, don't make the prospect feel like it. Yeah, really, really important stuff. Well, most of your clients are busy professionals. How much time do they actually spend on LinkedIn? Well, typically, most clients either automate or they have a VA that operates elements for them. A few hours a day to absolute most. And I say a few hours because that's also including content creation, the posting of that, responding to comments, and of course, carrying on conversations in the inbox. That's when you have everything running at automation. So you're adding all 400 people, you're writing to all 400 people. All those 400 people have signals. So you're getting lots of replies and lots of management. That's kind of where it's at. A few hours a day, typically done by a VA or through automation. It works incredibly well. Okay, last question for now. And of course, we'll be ending this session at this point. So this session was an hour. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. But for the last question, it says, how do you respond when someone says their market doesn't work on LinkedIn? Truthfully, we haven't seen a market where it hasn't worked. In the end of the day, if your prospects or clients are on LinkedIn, this works. Something on LinkedIn works to get to them. How you gather attention, how you operate to tailor that attention to then convert into calls or business is the strategy behind LinkedIn. So check out some of our courses, check out some of our other workshops where we teach other elements, such as events, such as different methods of generating business, not just booking calls. But of course, try it all because all of it works. And we haven't yet seen an industry where it hasn't. As I said, if your clients are on LinkedIn, this works. It's just a question of how you introduce yourself to those people. Hope you guys enjoyed this session. I really appreciate you guys joining this workshop. I look forward to seeing you at another one in the future. We do have some unique stuff coming up, such as a challenge, as well as some really cool stuff in our community and course. So thank you guys. Thank you everyone for joining. And again, if you have questions, feel free to ask them at jamesmason.co. All bonuses will be sent out after this in the next few hours, so keep that in mind. The Sales Navigator link as well will be included there. If you don't have it, you will not have it, and this will allow you to start finding prospects, start utilizing signals, and ultimately booking sales calls. Thank you. I look forward to seeing you in the next one.